Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
And hello once again, it's Talking Books and Writing and Stuff. And with us from the Ottawa area, we have best-selling author Rick Mofina. Did I do that right, Rick?
Close enough.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mofina. So anyway, Rick Mofina is with us, and we have a connection because he was born in Belleville, Ontario. Cheesies are made in Belleville, Ontario, and I was born in Belleville, Ontario. And I think Bobby Hull was too, but we won't go into that. So, Rick, what have you been doing in the last few years, what with all the spare time everybody's had on their hands?
Writing books every day, get up and work on a book.
So what is your schedule then? It must be quite rigid.
Oh, I'm up about 5:30 and look over some notes and usually work right through till noon and then work for a little bit in the afternoon and then I run out of gas.
Uh-huh. So do you have a theory that there's only so many words in a day that a person can turn out?
Oh, I used to have some theories when I was younger, but I don't have any anymore. I think it really is up to the individual author. Everybody finds their own path. Some people count words. I used to count words religiously. Some people, if you just put in the time and move your story along, whatever works for you, I think.
So when you're writing your books, and you have a number of them, almost 30, I think, at last count, do you plot them out in advance? Do you have charts and graphs and things on a wall, or is it sit down and start and then see where the story takes you?
No, I'm a bit of an outliner. I think when I was first published, my agent sold the book. And then when they came back for another book, they asked me just to give them a summary or an outline. That was like book 2. And from then on, all the publishers have asked me just for a summary or an outline of the next book I'd like to write or propose. And they buy that. When they see it, the beginning, middle, and end, and they realize it's not rigid, but it's a loose plan, then I take that outline and I might develop it into something longer for myself. So, yeah, I do outline. I'm always working on a book like all writers are. It's 24/7, even when you're not at your desk. And, sometimes I follow the outline, and sometimes I rarely look at it again because I have it in my head how the story's going to go. So, but the short answer is, yeah, I do outline because that's usually what the publishers request from me.
That's right. And apparently you sold your first short story at the age of 15. Is that right?
Yeah. Back in the day, and it still exists, I think, or variations, there was a magazine out of Boston called The Writer. I would ride my bike to a magazine store, and the owner would let me read the magazine for free. I'd stand there and read it, and I was amazed that it had markets and advice on how to send off stories. So I would go to high school typing class, and because I didn't have a typewriter, and type up my stories and mail them off, and the rejection letters would come back, and one day a check came back, and I was quite thrilled.
What was the story, and what was the check amount?
Oh, the story was sort of a short coming-of-age story about a young person who recognized a wrong that they had committed and corrected it, and it was a religious magazine in New Jersey that paid, I think it was about $45 US, and I didn't even have a bank account. I didn't even know how checks worked.
Right.
So, but that's how it started.
And then you hitchhiked at age 18 down to California from Belleville, and apparently you wrote a book about it, but that has not seen the light of day. Is that right?
No, and it never will. But it got me through the long journey of writing a novel. It was more of a on the road Jack Kerouac type thing based on the trip. It was terrible, but I think the only person who actually read it was my brother, and he just got a chuckle out of it. But it's just tucked away for the archives.
And then you got into newspapers. So of course I'm sure that learning to write tight and bright for a deadline is a great training for a novelist, I'm sure.
That's right. For me, I didn't go to university directly from high school. I worked for a few years, and then with the help of friends and family, decided to go to university to pursue journalism because I thought it would help the creative flow, because I was going to write no matter what. I knew I would always write fiction, but I thought I still need a day job, and what would help, what would be conducive to stimulating the creative energies I had. And so many authors going back for many years had gone the journalistic route, and I thought, well, that might work. So that's the path I followed. I knew I was always going to write, but I got into journalism, and that really did help.
And the first, truth be told, the only book of yours I have read to date is If Angels Fall, which was one of your first novels. Is that right?
That's right. That was the first one. When I graduated from university and got a job in newspapers, I sat down to start writing seriously. I thought, I'm gonna do this. I couldn't decide if I wanted to go supernatural or I wanted to go another way. And when I was assigned to the crime desk and was actually covering death and murders and talking with police, and got to know the drama of a newsroom, a big city newsroom, I thought, this is it, I'll do. And I was reading other reporters who were writing crime fiction. So it all gelled, and I worked secretly on If Angels Fall for several years, and then I pursued an agent and read all the advice on how to find your own agent. And so it was a long path, but then it all worked. I got an agent, and the agent contacted me and said she would represent me. Then she contacted me and said that there was an offer on the book. And I said, when the call came, I was, of course, quite excited. And I said, before you tell me anything more, can I buy a new car or can I get my brakes fixed? And you can get your brakes fixed.
There you go. So a long road to riches when you're a writer. Yeah. What I liked about the book, If Angels Fall, was, of course, the plot about kidnapped young people, children. But I don't think there's one wasted word in it. The story just grabbed me right from the start, and I just kept. Well, actually, I sat up for 3 hours one night reading and reading. I haven't quite finished it yet, but just not a wasted word. I attribute that, I think, to the newspaper training. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I guess I that gets drilled into you. And for me, I like that plain style of conveying the story and getting to the point. And multi-perspectives. Of course, when you're in journalism, when you're pursuing a story, you talk to a lot of people. And so I guess that was drilled into me. And there were so many other authors who I think have followed that as well into their fiction, who had done it much better than I did. But yeah, I think the news training really helped. And I thought I was ready to actually start taking a serious shot at it. And again, the bottom line was I was going to be writing anyway, and I thought I'm going to channel this all to the best of my ability to see if there's a sort of a product at the end that hopefully I could bring to an audience. And if not, that's fine. I'll just keep writing my books and stories. So and I was learning from other authors at the time. So I guess I was growing, but it worked out nicely. I was fortunate enough to be published, and I was on my way to learning about the publishing business.
And it seems from the chart I have in front of me, pretty much a book a year from the year 2000 till now, maybe more than one. So do you...
Yeah, I would say on average it was a book a year when I was working full time then. I was still putting out a book a year. I retired from the day job 4 or 5 years ago. But yeah, a book a year, sometimes a book every 8 months. But yeah, on average, a book a year.
So you must have been writing before you went to work and after you came home and into the middle of the night and on weekends, as well as keeping that full-time job. So.
Yeah, well, I was quite fortunate. You know, it is an old bit of philosophy. Sometimes the stuff that you think is the worst, you can flip it around. When I got assigned to being on the night police desk, and that shift was from 6 at night till 1 in the morning, and then you were on call to 4 in the morning. And I did not want that. I thought, oh, that's the graveyard shift. No one's around. And the guy that had it before me, he took me aside and said, if you work this right, if you don't sleep the day away, and say you get up early, like about 8 or 9 in the morning, the night shift is like a part-time job. And I thought, that's the way to do it. So since I had the day to myself to write for me, and then at night, I followed the big stories. And if it was really quiet, I was sitting and talking with police officers on the and detectives on the night shift, or riding along with them, because that's what the paper wanted me to do, is to make contacts. And so I was learning a lot about the police. They were relaxed at night. If it's a big story, I was right on it. So that's how I did it in the early days, and that enabled me to get the first few books done. And from then on, I wrote whenever I could, mostly early in the morning, and then on the weekend.
And a lot of people talk about being a writer, but to be a writer, you have to write. Is that right? I mean, correct?
I mean, I've been at many conferences for writers and readers, and you know, we discuss this on panels and get questions from people. Really, there's no easy answer, but for me, I only went to one writing group, and it didn't work for me. To me, writers know they are writers because they're writing. And to say I want to be a writer, well, okay, that can be debatable. People say, you know, I'll write this when I retire.
Right.
And many of them do. But others who just know it's sort of like an affliction almost, you just have to write creatively. And I guess I fall into that category, is that writers write. Whether you're published or not is a different matter. But if you are a writer, you know it. You will be writing. And hopefully you'll find your way, whatever way you want to go in terms of bringing your stories to people. But others think of it romantically, I think. I've seen this, and I've heard it from others who think you're just sitting in a cabin out in the beautiful woods and just typing away, and then and then you hit the big time. And that may happen for some, but that's really not realistic in my view. But for some, it does work out that way. So everybody finds their own path.
Right. And so I guess what I'm hearing is that, like you say, you didn't quit your day job until you'd been well established and then actually retired. So that kind of lends one to think that maybe you don't get a whole bunch of money, even if you are a published author.
Well, you know, it varies. In my travels from meeting other authors and extremely successful ones, and others who have come and sort of faded away, it's just like anything else. I think those who are outside of the business, and I guess we can use a comparison of those of movies and TV shows, is that, you know, if you see a blockbuster movie and you see the superstars who get incredible, their household names, they get incredible fees, but the supporting cast who are in those movies with them, they don't make that much, and you couldn't build a movie around an unknown actor, but people think that because you're in the movie that you're all enormously successful. And it's the same with publishing. If your book is in stores and it's got good distribution, it doesn't mean that you're at the same category as the household names. But, you are in the community. It's a big ocean, and there's all fish of all sizes swim in it. So
That's right. And it's Rick Mofina?
Rick Mofina.
Mofina, there it is, Rick Mofina. I just had to make sure I got that right. Let's see, we have the Tom Reed and Walt Sadowski series. Now, is there any more of those coming along?
No, that series is complete. 5 books.
And Jason Wade?
That was a trilogy. That's complete.
And they were set in Seattle, weren't they?
Yes, they were set in Seattle. I'd been there a few times, and when we lived in Alberta, and I just thought it would be a good place to set it. The U.S. publisher preferred that I set the books in the U.S.
Right. And so, what am I trying to say? I used to live in Bellingham, Washington, so I know all about Seattle, so it's easy. And Jack Gannon?
Jack Gannon, that's a 4-book series, and the introduction to that series was set in the Buffalo area. Again, I'd been there, and close to Canada, but I liked Buffalo because it was a blue-collar town and a tough town. But his aspirations were to work for an international wire service, and I was working for a wire service. And that was, in that series, it was designed purposely because then he really had no community. The world was his beat. And he was based in New York, so he could go anywhere.
Right. And Kate Page?
Kate Page, pretty much the same. Kate Page, single mom who was struggling at the time when the industry was eroding and shedding newspapers, and she was struggling to hang on and got on to a wire service again as well. So, the first 4 series were all reporters.
And how does a man write from a woman's point of view?
Well, I just try to think of the individual as any other person with their same emotions and feelings, and I did have help from my wife and my agent and the editors who were women to help me, think about this, think about that. But largely, she's an investigator. The journalists are investigators in pursuit of the truth. So she's an investigator, but with a different perspective.
Great. And standalone novels, you've got, was your most recent one, Her Last Goodbye?
That's correct, yes.
What's coming up next, then?
What we have coming is sometime this summer, I'm going to release a new trilogy, a 3-book series about a reporter, a wire service reporter out of New York who is Ray Wyatt is his name. And Ray Wyatt has lost his wife and son, so he's haunted. And in the tragedy that took his wife and son, he has reason to believe that maybe his son really was not killed. So he's, in the stories he covers, he looks for clues that may lead him to his son. So that'll be a self-published trilogy coming out this summer, and then I'll have another standalone coming out in April, which I don't really want to talk about yet because the draft was just completed, and so we're into revisions, and we'll settle on the title and cover, so that's coming up.
And they say that writing is not the easy part, but the hard part, or the real work, begins with the editing and the rewriting. I guess you would agree with that too.
Well, my feelings are a little different. For me, writing the first draft is the hardest. For me, writing the first draft is like drilling through rock, because you're laying it down for the first time. But once I have it down, and hopefully I'm on the right track, I don't mind the rewriting because you can see yourself as the writer when, mistakes you've made or overwritten, and you can clean it up. It's all like fresh cut wood, and you can see it's not quite nailed down. You got a loose nail here, and you need another board there, that kind of thing. Use a carpentry analogy. So I kind of like the rewriting as opposed to the first draft. And if I'm on track and the book doesn't need major surgery, that's okay.
That's okay. Okay. Rick, thank you very much for your time today, and continued good luck, and we look forward to reading many more of your stories. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.